Okay, hello all of you. Students, today we are going to take Unit 4 and the topic we will be covering is Advanced Technical Writing Process, and the second topic, Forms of Technical Discourse. So let's begin with our first topic, Advanced Technical Writing Process. Before we go in detail, let's shed some light on its introduction. Technical writing is a written communication about business and industry. Technical writing focuses on products and services as to how to manufacture them, market them, manage them, deliver them, and use them. Technical writing should be reader-oriented, descriptive, demo. It should be clear, concise, correct, positive, appropriate, and so on. So there are the different forms of technical writings. They are the different writing forms which need special technical writing processes. Some of them are memos and emails, letters, reports, proposals, the brochures, newsletters, flyers, we also call pamphlets, resumes, the website content writing, and that online help screens, user manuals, technical user manuals. When you get a mobile, you have user manual, how to operate the mobile or any machine. Then technical descriptions and job applications, etc. So these are the different technical writings. Now let's have the first introduction to technical writing process. What is a technical writing process? The technical writing process includes the three steps: planning, drafting, and revising. Let's discuss one by one. The very first is planning. So it is also termed as pre-writing stage. This is the very first stage in any technical writing. Whether you're writing your job resume, your CV, this is your very first step. Before you can write your technical document, you must have to decide what you want to say. And pre-writing allows a good span of time prior to writing the correspondence for any information. So these are the instructions you should follow. You should examine your purposes, which motivates you or any external reader for whom you're writing. Then determine your goals. Goals if you want to persuade through writing, or if you want to release an instruction, if you want to share an information, or if you want to build a business trust, a healthy business relation. So for what goal, what purpose you're writing your text, that is determining your goals. Then consider audience. If you're writing anything, any document for a non-technical, a general audience who is not any aware about that technique. For example, if you're writing a technical manual for a car owner, that car owner is not a technical person, but you have that simplicity of language and technique through which you mention all the necessary details about operating the car and conditions in which he can drive the car safely and maintain and avoid the risk to that machine. So this is considering your audience, what kind of audience you have, whether technical audience, whether they are scientists or engineers, or whether they are just a common man. Then it is your gathering data. Gathering data, it can be done in various ways. Answering the reporter's question, that is question answer session, mind mapping. Look at the topic from multiple perspectives to any subject. Then brainstorming, giving and taking suggestions. Then outlining, means breaking a topic into minor and major components. Then storyboarding, that is explaining visually on a screen, then creating organization charts. If necessary, to detail some information with the help of charts or graphs, you need to create that suitable chart or graph or flow chart, or any researching if it needs. You go through that little research to gather data for your content writing. For example, if you're writing a research article, it is necessary that you go through a research. So finally, you have to determine how the content will be provided. Once you gather the content, you have to plan how to lay it out. It is a must, because planning gives you sufficient time, advance time, before you draft your second piece of document after the planning. So now we come to the second step of technical writing, that is drafting or writing. Drafting is a rough writing of the document with the help of the informations you have gathered, the data you have gathered. So after gathering data and determining your objective, the next step is to express them, to state them. You need to draft your document. To do so, you should firstly organize the draft according to some logical sequence that your readers can follow easily. And second thing you need to do, appropriate format. Format the content to allow for ease of access. As you know, every technical writing needs some specific kind of format. Here we are considering the example of your CV, curriculum vitae. It needs a specific content. Even depending on the situation, every organization needs a special kind of structure. So we keep on changing the format of that CV as per the need of the employer or the reader. So after the drafting, you have the final step in the writing process, editing. Once your rough writing is complete, once you have drafted your document, it is very essential to proofread it, to make it authentic and correct to the fullest. And that is included in your step editing or rewriting. It is also popularly known as proofreading of the text. The final step, and one that is essential to any successful writing, is to rewrite your draft. This step requires that you revise the rough draft. Revision allows you to perfect your writing, so you can be proud of your final product. The final product come out with a successful piece of writing. It may involve the followings. Firstly, read it carefully. Add any missing detail for clarity. If any detail is missing, that without which the sense or the understanding is incomplete, you provide it suitably there. So provide specific details. Avoid abstract adjective and adverbs such as recently, some, several. See, when you're writing a technical, scientific document, a special document, you cannot be general in your approach. You have to be very formal and specific in your approach, in your writing. So instead of these things, you can equally use strictly speaking, scientifically writing, in a nutshell, conclusively, or most importantly, or particularly. So these are the phrases, adverb phrases suggested to make your idea more specific. The next thing, you have delete redundant or surplus words and phrases for conciseness. See, while writing the rough draft, it happens we express long sentences, but longer sentences, it add length to your entire document. So one simple way is to reduce the unwanted or which do not make any effect on the meaning of the sentence. So you remove the surplus words and phrases and make the sentence look more concise and impressive. The next is simplify unnecessarily complex words and phrases. When you concise your sentences, it happens that the sentences turns more complex and concentrated, which would not be easy to understand by the other audience, other readers. So you avoid that, you take care for that, and you on the same hand go on simplifying the unnecessary complexity and turning them into feasible, understandable words, sentences. So next is move around information, and if required edit, to ensure that your most important ideas are emphasized. Okay, in this, when we lay out the entire document, we keep in mind the importance of information, and the information which is more important should come first, and we cut that piece of information from any page and bring it in the earlier part of the document so that it looks more impressive to the reader and it meets with its purpose, becoming more effective. So important ideas should follow first, and that is possible. You cut and paste those ideas to the desired way. Then the reformatting. As we discussed, every specific situation, circumstances have different format, and we keep on changing the format as per the necessity. Then we have enhanced the tone and style. See, the tone and the style, it matters on the overall outcome of the document. The tone, if needs, should be formal or informal, whether you should consider a suitable tone to make it more appealing and persuasive. Finally, it comes to the grammar correction and content. If there is error in the grammar, because of faulty grammar makes the content, the document, look inaccurate and ineffective, and it misleads the reader, and it also has a bad impression on the writer's part. So one should consider for these things while editing. So students, these are the 3 steps involved in technical writing process. Now we come to our next topic, forms of technical discourse. Usually the discourse, it means any communication, whether it is written or oral, whether it is over phone, or whether it is through paper communication or email, or whether it is a debate, it is all included in the discourse term. So firstly we introduce to the discourse. As I said, introduction creates a suitable background with the help or through which we can proceed ahead very conveniently. So introduction to study discourse means to analyze the use of spoken and written language in a special content. An example of discourse you can very well consider as I, a professor, meeting with the students to discuss a chapter. So forms of discourse, let's come to the form of discourse. So while every act of communication can count as an example of discourse, when you're talking to your friend over phone, when you're talking, listening to me, that is even a discourse. When you go to a doctor, it is a discourse. When you talk to your principal, it's a discourse. So any communication can be considered into the terms of discourse. It can be divided, but technically if you see that, not generally, technically, it can be divided into 4 primary types. The argumentative discourse, narrative discourse, description discourse, or expository discourse. So the discourse maker or the communicator, he uses any of the 4 altogether, simultaneously, or randomly. So we will discuss one by one. Let's come to the first type of discourse, that is expository kind of discourse. In expository, the word itself suggests expose, means it exposes. For example, when you introduce something in your answer book to the question, when you define it, you expose, you shed some light, you go in the deep of that subject and you introduce or explain that subject or the topic to some extent. So you expose, you throw light on that subject. So the main focus of this type of discourse is to make the audience aware about the topic of the discussion. And as you said, definition and comparative analysis of different ideas and beliefs are example of discourse. The second, we have narrative discourse. Narrative itself, you understand, the story writers are the narrators. For example, you read Ruskin Bond. Ruskin Bond narrates any incident, any past experience in a very creative and a very soothing way, heart-rending way, and attracts, persuades his readers through his stories. So narrative is a very common technique, and it's a special type of discourse that relies on stories. You add words, you try to explain through interesting technique. For example, the folklore or the story or drama are examples of this narrative. Now we have the third one, description type of discourse. And description, you describe the things. It involves describing something in relation to the senses or the topic. Descriptive discourse enables the audience to develop a mental picture of what is being discussed, and that mental picture, it helps him to further guessing the happenings or the incidents. So description has another impact. Then it comes to the argumentative, the last kind of discourse we have. So argumentative, it suggests making arguments. See, arguments in technical discourse especially, not general arguments that can be a violent exchange of words. Here is we having a technical argument. So this type of discourse is based on valid logic and through correct reasoning, trying to motivate the audience. For examples, you see in the judiciary, the advocates, they make their arguments, they give their logics, they give evidences, right, witness to prove their statements. So that can be a best example of argument. When you debate, when you prove, when you stick to one idea and you try to come up with that idea, sticking to it and adding examples and certain logics so that your audience come up with you. So that is a good example of argument. So all these are the four parts of the four kinds of discourse. So students, hope you made it. So this is how we come to the end of discourse. Thank you.